She's expected to finish her direct testimony either today, by the end of the day, or tomorrow morning. Now, what she indicated right off the bat is that she would text Diddy on two different phones. He had these two different phones. She also talked about the fact that they got a third phone, she and Diddy, to record some of their explicit videos because his assistants had access to his other phones and she just didn't want that out there. She also started reading from a September 2023 text thread between she and Diddy. And we can't see this in the gallery. Only the jurors can see this. But it was a back and forth about how she, at one point, he promised to take her on a yacht to this island off of the coast of Miami, and they never did that. This was after a hotel night, and she ended up hearing him on a podcast talking about taking another woman to this yacht on this yacht to this island. That started a whole big fight between them. I think the government was trying to maybe connect that with fraud, that he promised her something and he didn't do it. And he tells her, baby girl, that's just podcast talk, et cetera, et cetera. And they have, a big fight back and forth. And she, again, says she feels used. I'm paraphrasing, but text along those lines. They end up FaceTiming and she says, okay, I'll come visit you in New York after all, because she had said initially, I'm not coming to visit you. I just feel gross. I feel used. They FaceTime. He says all the right things. And he says, we don't have to do any hotel stuff. And she gets on her flight and she says mid-flight, her heart just sinks because he sends her an entertainer to approve. And she kind of just says, okay, I didn't get service. So she lands, she was all excited to go to dinner, not have a hotel night. And it turns out it's really late. They go to some club lounge and they bicker and they end up having a hotel night after all. She also said at another point, she said that they were having another argument. And this is just a few days later. And she's just saying that she doesn't want to be with him anymore, et cetera, et cetera. And then he sends her a screenshot of what the doctor said about his knees. I guess he was having knee problems. And she kind of just said, she put her frustrations aside and she started talking to him nicely again, or kind of like the way they were. And they end up getting together and having another hotel night. Now, she also describes, and I believe she talked about this last week as well, this one sobriety night that she had where she decided to do a hotel night without drugs. And she talked about having relations with 3 different escorts, and between the second and third escort, she threw up. And she talked about, my blush. Sorry. She talked about the when she threw up, Diddy kind of saw her throwing up and he was like, oh, good, now you'll feel better. And then she had to go and finish. And she also talked about after this sobriety night, this whole experience, she was very sick. She got a UTI and she had a yeast infection. And then we saw more texts. We saw a lot of texts this morning about them arguing and her really expressing the fact that she feels she feels used. She said at one point, sex was sacred to her. Now it's not. He's kind of ruined that for her. She feels like she was emotionally manipulated. She said that she started to have PTSD from the hotel nights and she needed a therapist. She said in text messages that he emotionally manipulated her. And we heard voice notes from Diddy as well. There was one voice note in particular after she said she sent him a note after the sobriety night where she was with these 3 men and she asked him to put something in her account. She needed money or something, or she wanted to furnish the house, and he didn't respond for a day. And then she texted him again, like, you weren't too busy to respond to me when I was doing all these things you wanted, etc. And then he leaves her this voice note and he sounded kind of messed up, but he's like, I'm in Miami. I don't need no bitches. Like, you're all crazy type of thing. And that's a big theme, him calling her crazy. He said she's crazy a lot. She always seems to be crazy whenever she would voice her opinion about not wanting to do the hotel nights. And at one point when she was kind of trying to break up with him again, she said, I'm not Gina or Cassie. And the government said, well, what did you mean by this? And she's like, they just kind of left quietly. She said, I don't exactly remember what I meant, but I kind of meant like, maybe I wasn't going to leave quietly type of thing. Let me see. Oh, there was another point where she actually said the phrase to him, quote, I know I was consenting. And I thought this was maybe something to point out because Diddy had said to her during another argument, well, if anybody were to watch these videos, you would look like you're enjoying it. So I think, she wanted to just put that out there. I know I was consenting, maybe saying, well, now I'm not type of thing. But that was a moment because the government kind of focused on that for a second and made us listen to her say the word consent a few times. Oh, and this morning, I should just point this out. This morning, before we started, the judge called in the lead counsel from the defense and the government to the roving room, which is off the record. So we don't know what happened in there, but they didn't come out for like 10 to 15 minutes. And then we kind of started right away, but people were kind of talking. Some people, this is pure speculation. We really have no idea what happened, but some people were like, was there a juror issue? Some people were like, maybe is there a plea deal? But there really wasn't much going on this morning. I thought maybe the government would argue their stance on the mistrial that the defense had filed a letter for mistrial over the weekend, but their response is coming tomorrow morning. So we won't hear about that until then. But I want to say, again, just back to the arguments, there was a lot about him paying the rent for her house, or this love contract they entered into, which said that he would continue to pay for her house for, I think it was 2 years, 3 years, or something like that. And she brought that up, like, can you finish out the whole quote unquote contract type of thing, when she would say, I need a break from you, this and that. I think that's about it. Again, it was just a lot of text messages back and forth, breakup text messages, her putting a lot of things in writing. Lots of stuff in writing that she didn't really want to do this. But then again, she would have a reason as to why she did return. And it was based on the fact that, number one, she was in love with him, and she would just kind of fall back into this pattern, which is why she had said during some of her text messages, don't contact me. And she said to the government, because if he did, I knew I would just sort of go back into that whole thing. We also saw, by the way, there was some contention between Diddy and Jane when they were texting and having these text fights, because Diddy brought up her ex. And it was about 3 times that he brought up her ex during this one fight, although we don't know what the context was. So just throwing that out there. And again, I left a few minutes early just to get uptown for this talent show. And we know her ex is 50 Cent. Splice in whatever I missed later for the afternoon update, or the update after lunch. All right, thanks.
So we do know that her ex, they talking about, is 50 Cent, because Jane Doe is 50 Cent's baby mama, which is definitely Joy.
Paranoia, jealousy, disgust. Those were the themes of Diddy's ex-girlfriend's testimony today in court. The woman, who's going by the pseudonym Jane, was sobbing on the stand as she read 2023 text messages that she sent to Diddy. Once writing, I'm doing things that make me feel disgusted with myself, referencing the things that she used to do during hotel nights, also known as freak-offs. Now, Jane has been on the stand since Thursday, and she spent most of today recalling times where she thought she was getting romantic one-on-one time with Diddy, only for him to switch up the plans and turn it into a hotel night. One time where Jane says that he promised to take her out on the yacht, but after spending 2 nights in the hotel, they never went. Then sending him angry text messages after she says she heard him on a podcast bragging about having sex for 48 hours on a yacht trip with another woman. She wrote, I don't want to be used and locked in a room to perform and fulfill your fantasies. My heart is really in this and it's breaking. I don't want to play this role in your life anymore. She also told him that she didn't want to fly to New York to be a hoe for the millionth time in a hotel room. At this point, Jane told prosecutors that she felt like Diddy was holding paying her rent over her head, and that she felt obligated to perform these sex acts so he would continue doing so. Now, in court last week, Jane explained that her relationship with Diddy, unlike Cassie and Diddy's, was private, and that he was very open from the beginning about being in an open relationship. Today, text messages that she sent to Diddy and read aloud in court showed that she was frustrated with the arrangement and explained those frustrations in text, but she says Diddy much of the time dismissed her as crazy. One time texting her 6 times, "Are you gonna let me into our house?" I also noticed that when Jane was talking about her home, she referenced it as our house. Now today, prosecutors mainly focused on their relationship from late 2023, right before Cassie filed her lawsuit, right up to their last freak off right before Diddy got arrested. Late 2023 text, Jane wrote, "I am not a porn star. These experiences are desensitizing sex for me." She then told the court that she felt like there was added pressure on her and that she noticed that other girlfriends didn't have to earn love and romance like she did. Then says when she tried to distance herself, he would love bomb her. Jane also talked about the physical toll that these hotel nights were taking on her, explaining that one night there were 3 entertainers and she threw up, and that didn't seem to concern Diddy. Paranoia, jealousy, disgust. Those were the themes of Diddy's ex-girlfriend's.
So I think the one they talking about, the podcast that he was on the podcast with, talking about having sex with for 48 hours, I believe that is Young Miami. Because he was on her podcast and they was discussing that. She was talking about how long he can go and you got to be energized.
Y'all, I just came out of the Diddy trial. I was able to get in. I was able to see Diddy. He's looking much older, lost a lot of weight. But the vibe is, was interesting. Saw Jane Doe. Her testimony, a lot of text messages were shared. It's clear that she's a woman that was really battling her feelings for Diddy. She just kept going back to him. But to me, the most touching part of her testimony was when she discussed how she read Cassie's testimony and just how she saw herself in Cassie's struggle. That to me really resonated when it comes to her testimony. But I have to be honest, I really am not quite sure I see the S trafficking with Jane Doe. It just seems like she was a woman who really had strong feelings for Diddy and just kept going back and wanting to engage in his fantasies. That's really what I'm seeing with her. But she was manipulated. She was gaslit for sure. But it's hard for me to see yet the S trafficking. But there were moments, obviously, of force. She talked about a night where she was abused. However, even on that night, she was the aggressor initially. She attacked him initially, but then he chased her down, and then right after the attack, they had an FO. I mean, it's just a very twisted love story. I was able to actually connect with other journalists. We were talking about it, and we kind of share the same feeling. The S trafficking charge will be tough, at least when it comes to Jane Doe. It's strong, in my opinion, when it comes to Cassie. I've said that before. To me, on the RICO, however, they're strongest on bribery, illegal substance trafficking. We can't say certain words online. And maybe obstruction of justice. However, the S trafficking, at least with Jane Doe, I don't know. It's not quite as strong for me. And it was quite interesting to hear that Diddy is actually paying her lawyer, still paying her lawyer. And she met with the defense, we heard, as early as April 2025, but then she said she stopped meeting with them because she started to find herself and she started to get therapy. So she's really in a personal battle. To me, she's going to need years of therapy, just like Cassie has needed therapy. I mean, they've really gone through some things. Diddy is quite an interesting, toxic character, that is no doubt, but I'm not sure this is S trafficking, like I said. And another thing, of course, many of us have already learned, he's also still paying her rent. So he still has some type of control over her. And we were sitting there trying to figure out what that means. Also, there was a part in her testimony where they played recordings of conversations. We weren't sure if it was her recording their conversations or Diddy recording them, or his assistant, or his chief of staff, KK, recording those conversations, and what that all means. And I'm hearing that. I'm not sure KK is actually going to testify, which is very strange to me, but who knows, maybe they want her not to testify because maybe depending on the outcome of this trial, she may in fact be indicted and face some type of charges, because Jane Doe did say that she was heavily involved with a lot of the decision making that was going on. So we shall see. But this was quite an interesting day. I'm glad I was able to come out. I can't come every day because I have a 9 to 5.
Day 19 of the criminal trial against Sean Diddy Combs. Today we are expecting a full day of testimony from Jane. This is one of Combs' accusers who in 2021 started dating the hip-hop mogul through to his arrest in September of 2024. Jane testified on Friday, breaking down several times on the
Day 19 of the Diddy trial, and Young Miami was the straw that broke the camel's back. Huh? Day 19 of the Diddy trial, and Young Miami was the straw that broke the camel's back. Okay? Jane is still on the stand, and she's basically talking about her relationship with Diddy. Now, she did say on the stand that when he was on a podcast with Young Miami, that's what really turned everything around, because then she realized that he was doing a lot of the stuff that she was promising her with Young Miami. Now, also, as well, too, the thing that came about the two phones. One phone was for everybody who was in the business. The other phone was what the personal stuff was on, as far as the freak offs and what they was doing and things of that nature. Now, apparently, he went on a trip or something, and he asked her to send him one of the situations that they had before when they was having fun. And she thought that he was trying to basically get himself together for another woman. Also, as well, too, she said that Diddy would manipulate her as far as talking about the bills he paid, how he basically provides for her, and her job is to make sure that she basically is activated during these freak-offs. Lord, it's going down. But honestly, we have said it before and a couple weeks ago, when it all boils down to it, I honestly think, and this is not me being judgy or nothing, that Young Miami encompasses everything that all of these girls thought that they were going to be the Diddy. Young Miami was that perfect match, and they hated that because she was at the tail end of everything, and that's what kind of brought this indictment down. If you ask me, you know what I'm saying? But I want to get y'all take on it. Comment, let me know how y'all feel. They on break right now. I'll update y'all later on around 5 when we go live. I'm just a messenger. Day 19 of the Diddy trial, and Young...
Day 19 of the Diddy trial. They went until 5 o'clock today, so I'm hoping that this is the ending, the last video of the day. Jane just testified that Diddy assaulted her, and then after he told her to put on an outfit, a USA outfit, Jane, lingerie and heels. Sean was using my phone to play pornography. He texted Anton on my phone. My phone was screen mirrored onto the TV. Sean texted, "Hey, what are you doing?" Sean scrolled up and saw Anton.
Whew, I took a couple days off, y'all. And not because I didn't care. I needed a break. This trial has been heavy with a lot of shit that I already got going on, so I needed that break. I appreciate y'all understanding. But I'm back, bitch. Day 19, Diddy trial, here we go. Jane had the courtroom in a chokehold from 9:18 a.m. to the moment they dismissed the jurors to go to lunch. Court starts, jury walks in, Jane is back on the stand. Most of us know who Jane is at this point. So the assistant U.S. attorney gets straight to it. First up are photos. One was of Diddy's security. The next one was of his deputy butler. Then they talked about some guy named ATL, and they asked her why she called him ATL, and she said it was the entertainer Sly because he was based in ATL. Then they asked about a message that she sent to Diddy in 2023. She said he asked her to send her some shit of her being bad, and she responded, "You're traveling with our phones." Meaning they had shared devices, and not just his two primary ones. Because his assistant had access to those, he had other ones that they shared. And then we get into Jane confronting Diddy, asking her to send things to him that were bad. And she was saying that you use this to get your D hard for somebody else. And then he tried to gaslight her in the text messages, per standard. And then she hits him with a text that says, "I'm coming to New York for a hotel binge." Why? Because she said she saw a podcast where he talked about having sex for 48 hours on a yacht in Miami. The same yacht he had promised her a trip on. And he ended up taking another woman instead. So they not only put up the text messages, bitch, they pulled up her notes app. One of the notes that they found in our notes app said, "I don't want to come to New York to be treated like a hoe." She said she didn't know if she wanted to send it, but she did. And he responded to her that it was just podcast talk. She then responded, kind of like bitter relationship shit. Like one message said, like, "You took her to the Bahamas, not me." And then she reminded him once where he had sent her a text message that said, "You made Papa proud." She also broke down explaining how Diddy would use money and rent as leverage, guilting her to do things she didn't want to do. Like if she didn't go along with it, he would stop paying her rent. And that type of manipulation is like textbook abuse. Then they played a voice message from Diddy saying how he was saying like this is a true open relationship and how he was sick. And she said she FaceTimed him after that, and he tried to calm her down because she was kind of upset. She even sent him a picture thereafter of her outfit from the plane. And he told her that they would go to dinner. She said they never went to dinner. It turned into like a late night lounge situation. Like and follow for the next part because y'all know y'all got short attention spans. So I'm going to have to make a second part. Whew, I took a couple days off.
Jane Doe testified that every time she and Diddy had these party nights, hotel nights, he always wanted her to make sure she's not using any rubber. They played a audio recording in the hotel talking about Diddy saying to her that he doesn't want her to use any rubbers with the entertainers. And she was telling the entertainer, use a rubber, use a rubber. He's like, no, don't use no rubbers. Why are you asking for a rubber? And I realize now that it's almost like he's addicted to seeing this big black things and then playing in the finishings with her. And then not only that, like she even testified that even after they do the sessions, which last for like 18 to 30 hours, he's still having her like be with him after and play in the finishings together. So it's almost like he's addicted to this stuff. Like he's almost like an addict of some kind. Not just a rug addict, but another kind of addict, if you know what I'm saying. She testified today that her and Diddy got into a physical altercation because she found out when he had came back from his trip to Utah with his kids and his family that he was with some young girl that was like in her 20s, like early 20s, like 23 or 25. So she called him a pedo and he was like upset about that. She said that the assistant had came to her house, you know, they call it, he calls her house their house, like that's their house. And the assistant came to the house, set up the house with candles and wine and food and stocked the refrigerator and had roses and all this other stuff. And her and Diddy was getting along really well and everything was going great. But then everything just kind of went haywire. Like she took videos of them like getting along, them laughing and giggling. Diddy's talking in the background. She took pictures of the scenery in the room, in the house and everything like that. And then she said after that recording, like they didn't show the recording to the public, they just showed it to the jury. But after that recording stopped on her phone, she said 30 minutes later, they got into a big old altercation, like an actual physical altercation where he kicked down her door. And it was because she got so angry with him. She was getting so jealous of him, like spending time with these other women, but only wanted to be with her for the hotel nights, but not taking her on all these trips anymore, which he was doing in the first year of their relationship. After that, he only took her out for holidays, like her birthday, Valentine's, stuff like that. And so then she said he bent down to tie his shoe in the kitchen and she kicked him and he bumped his head on the marble counter. And then they started tussling. Diddy started chasing her. She ran into the other room. And she closed the door behind her. He kicked the door off the hinges and then she hid in the closet. He kicked that door off, got a hold of her, choked her up like this, and she was like screaming and kicking, trying to get away from him. She said she ran out of the house down the street 6 blocks to get away from him and hid in the bushes for 2 hours. And he was calling and screaming at her, telling her, get your butt back here now. So he not only putting his hands on her too, like he did Cassie, he just like, oh my God, the diddler is just getting worse and worse and worse. Like this case just gets worse and worse and worse by the day. By the day. She even went on to talk about how when Cassie came out with her lawsuit, she said that she was so triggered by everything that was in the lawsuit. She read the entire lawsuit, but the prosecution found 3 screenshots of Cassie's lawsuit in her cell phone when they confiscated her cell phone. And the 3 pages was talking about in detail of everything that she was going through. It was talking about the FOs, and she was like, I feel like I'm living my trauma through these pages, and it's diabolical. Jane Doe testified that every time she and Diddy had these party nights, hotel nights, he always wanted her to make sure she's not using any rubber. They played a audio recording in the hotel talking about Diddy stating to her that he doesn't want her to use any rubbers with the entertainers. And she was
What happened? Any message you want to share with us?
Yo, what's up, man? Hey, what's going on, bro? How you doing, man? Hanging in there? Working hard? Yeah?
We now know how Diddy reacted to that awful video of him beating up Cassie Ventura at the Intercontinental Hotel. It's Jacob Wasserman with TMZ. Today we heard again from Jane. This is the pseudonym of one of Diddy's ex-girlfriends. And she described what it was like being at Diddy's Miami home when him and his family all found out that that video finally went public. She said she was sitting down about to eat breakfast, completely lost her appetite when she watched that video. She said Diddy, his friends and family were all huddled up thinking about how they were going to address this awful situation. They eventually invited in Jane and showed her the final draft of what Diddy was going to say. Apparently at that time, it was actually going to invoke Cassie's name. Ultimately, the final version did not use her name at all. Jane says she talked to Diddy about the video a few weeks later, and he said that was the only time there was violence like that, and he also called Cassie a hitter. Diddy's apology video was played for the jury, and ultimately, it'll be up to them to decide whether or not they found it genuine.
This afternoon in the Diddy trial, Jane Doe delivered some of the most graphic and violent testimony yet. We're talking about physical assault, forced sex acts, financial manipulation, and a pattern that prosecutors say supports their RICO charge. Here's exactly what happened and how it might help both sides. June 18th, 2024, Jane says she met Diddy at home in LA for a private date night. Jonathan, one of his assistants, decorated the home with red lighting and candles to make it feel romantic. She said she wore a long brown dress, but things took a turn. They were drinking champagne and tequila, and Jane said she asked Diddy who he had been with during his recent trip to Utah. She believed it was a very young woman, possibly under 21, and told Sean she thought he was a pedophile. She admits she pushed his head into the marble counter and started throwing candles and glass. Then she ran to lock herself in the bedroom. Sean kicked down the bedroom door and then the bathroom door, then chased her into the closet. Jane says she tried to escape, but Sean kicked her, put her in the chokehold, dragged her by her arms, and dragged her by her hair. She ran 6 blocks away and hid behind a wall for 2 hours. When she returned, the violence wasn't over. She said Sean punched her, called her effing crazy, accused her of trying to keep him away from his kids. Later, he forced her to listen to the woman from the Utah trip on FaceTime, holding her down while the woman insulted her. Jane says she finally yelled, "He's beating my ass." Sean ended the call and told Jonathan to cover for him, saying he wasn't with another woman. Jane says she went to shower, trying to cool off. She was naked, and Sean came in, still dressed, slapped her, and she fell to the floor. Then he told her to put on lingerie and heels, and he used her phone to play porn and text Anton. She says that her phone was mirrored to the TV, and Sean read old texts from Anton about mutual friends, triggering more anger for him. Anton arrived, and Jane had covered her bruises with makeup, as Sean told her to. She said Sean stared coldly while she tried to play hostess. Sean then pulled her aside, interrogated her about Vegas, and called her a whore. He left and sent his security back with $10,000 to $12,000 in cash, some for Anton and some for the doors that he destroyed. Jane sent about $3,000 to Anton and testified that she never fixed the doors. The money was spent on other expenses. Now, here's a moment that stood out legally. Jane said Sean found messages from another rapper referred to as Bear, who had also sent her money. Sean became furious and said, "You don't need my money. You're making your own." Jane replied that she was trying to pay off debt because she had been on call for Diddy and hadn't been focused on her job. But this was clearly a moment of control and power. Diddy used financial dependence to maintain the relationship. And when that power was threatened, he retaliated emotionally and verbally. Despite all this, Jane said she still missed him. She flew to see him again for a Sunday fun day, but it didn't go well. When she said she was tired, he got angry and threw water on her, called her a bitch, and gave her an ecstasy pill. Later, she was given liquid Molly. It was in a spray bottle, and he would just spray it on her. She said she felt a surge of high octane sexual energy, and that's when Paul arrived, and she had sex with him in front of Sean. She testified that the same thing happened again weeks later with Dawn, also in front of Sean. The final bombshell today: Sean Combs is still paying for her lawyer in this case. Court's now adjourned for the day, but Jane's testimony will carry over. Tomorrow, we expect cross-examination.
We are back with another update on the Diddy trial. The jury is back from lunch. Jane is back on the stand, and I am back at my house, so we can really talk about this. So Jane says the first time that she saw Diddy after Cassie's lawsuit in November 2023, she didn't see him again until February 24.
Y'all,
okay,
hit the
They
like and
kept in
subscribe
contact,
button.
a little bit on text message, and these text messages were read in court. One text message read, "Please stop using women for your issues. Leave women alone who don't want to do those nights with you. Hire S workers and stop emotionally harming women that don't love you." Combs responded, "You trying to set me up? This is crazy, effing crazy. Are you recording our phone calls?" And Jane takes back, "No, stop calling me. You will never understand because you're so deep in it, in your own lies that you tell yourself." She also wrote, "I set up the men for myself because..." Hey, you guys, we're at day 19 of the Diddy trial. So remember, when we left off on Friday, we were recapping the first day of testimony from Jane Doe. Jane Doe happens to be considered as victim number 4. She is the last victim that will be testifying. She's not the last witness, but the last victim, according to the prosecution. Now, today was day 2 of her testimony, her direct examination by the prosecution. And when I tell you it was fireworks, bombs was being dropped, and all kind of stuff. She continued to testify about her and Diddy's relationship. Basically, how she thought that they were developing a relationship to be a girlfriend. Though he stated to her in the beginning of their relationship that their relationship would be open, but what it truly meant is that it would be a one-sided openness, meaning that it was open on Diddy's side. He could date other women, but according to her testimony, she could not date other men. The only men that she could have relations with were the men that Diddy chose to have in their hotel nights, which was equal to Cassie and Diddy's FOs. And that's the conclusion I came to, but I'm not in her head, but that's pretty much where her testimony went. Now, most of her testimony started out about how she found out that Diddy was having relations with other women, or she assumed that. But of course, he didn't tell her that that's what it was. The voice note that was recorded with Diddy speaking was his response to her because she was accusing him of cheating on her. She stated that she saw him on IG with another woman, and another woman, he was taking her out for her birthday. She stated on Instagram how she saw that he had taken the young lady on a trip for her birthday, and it was supposed to be her. He also stated in response to her accusations that he was working out with the woman and he didn't have a lot of friends in the Miami area, and that she was pretty much overreacting just because she saw him with a woman or he was working out with another female. She also stated she was upset and confronted him about when he was on a podcast bragging how he went on an escapade for 48 hours, and that woman was not her. So most of her testimony was about how he was asking her to continue to have these FOs over the phone, send him pictures, send him videos. And she started realizing that their so-called relationship was turning into a one-sided benefit, And the only one that was really benefiting in the relationship was Diddy. And what some people kind of fail to realize, in her mind, she's looking at, technically, when a person is in a relationship, it's normally two people. But for Diddy, he wanted his girlfriends, allegedly based on their testimony, to fulfill his fantasies, which meant that they brought another person into the relationship. She stated that she started to feel like that's all he wanted from her, was her to be exed on by other men while he watched. She felt like that's what became the premise of their relationship, and she really didn't sign up for that. Even though they went into the love contract and they were pretty much a couple years in by the time that he offered this to her, where he would pay her $10,000 a month for her living expenses. But according to her testimony, she stated that was pretty much a trade-off for her doing these hotel nights, aka FOs. And she started to feel used and not like a girlfriend, especially once she saw him having all these experiences with other women on social media. Now, she states that once Cassie's lawsuit dropped, she had a harrowing experience. And it reads, then Cassie's lawsuit came out. It was everywhere on social media. I think I fainted. Comey, why? Because there were 3 pages that were harrowing what I was experiencing. Did you screenshot those pages? Yes. Do you recognize this? It's Cassie's lawsuit filed November 16th, 2023. Had you met Cassie? In 2015, a fashion show and celebration for Sean. That's the only time I met Cassie. She stated, I was reading these pages and it felt like a nightmare. I had a lot of sympathy for this because, objection, ask a new question. How did you react? Like, I can't believe I'm reading my own story. Now, what we're finding out is to this day, Diddy is still paying her rent, which is $10,000 a month. And he is also paying for her attorney. She also stated that once the lawsuit dropped, there were news media and all the attention from the press was on Diddy. She also stated that he tried to start switching his narrative. So remember, after the lawsuit, then a few months later, the video came out. So now she's testifying about what happened once that video came out. She stated once the video came out, then she had went back home to LA and she didn't see him again until June 18th of 2024. The prosecution asked, where did you see him? Jane stayed at home in LA, date night in the house. Jonathan came to help set up. What did Jonathan do? Put some candles around the home, decorated with red lights to make the environment cozy. What the plan to have an entertainer? No, I wore a long brown dress. I opened our patio, which was really nice. So she goes on to say, yes, we had a champagne and some tequila. I started confronting him about who he was with on his family trip to Utah. What did you say to Sean? I said, you are a He was 25 or more years older than the young girl that she caught him with. Then she goes on to say, I said, if a girl can't buy her own drinks, what makes you interested in her? I believe she was under 21. But older than 18. Yes, I pushed his head into the marble. Now, why would she do that? The prosecution asked, then what? Jane said, I started throwing candles and glass. I was very angry. He was probably cursing and calling me crazy. I wanted to lock myself in the master bedroom. Comey asked, did Sean touch you? Not yet, she said. I locked the bedroom door, but he kicked it down.
It's June 18th, 2024, and Jane Doe is in her Los Angeles home, a place paid for by Sean Diddy Combs. The candles are flickering, red lights casting a warm glow, and she's wearing a long brown dress, expecting a quiet night with Diddy. But the mood shifts fast. An argument erupts over a family trip Diddy took to Utah, and Jane's suspicions about another woman boils over. She snaps, pushing his head into a marble counter. What follows is a scene straight out of a nightmare. Diddy allegedly kicks down multiple doors, chokes her, drags her by her hair, and punches her head, leaving her with a black eye. She runs barefoot 6 blocks, hiding behind a wall, only to return and face more violence. This chilling testimony from day 19 of Diddy's trial is just the tip of the iceberg. Jane Doe's afternoon in court. It's June 18th, 20.
After lunch, court was back in session. The prosecution basically displayed a whole bunch of text messages between Miss Jane and Mr. Combs in the late around December 2023. On one of the texts, she texts him saying she has been crying and she's troubled and she thinks it's best that he starts hiring prostitutes instead of hiring women that love him. She said once the lawsuit was filed in November 2023, she and Combs did not see each other till February 2024. She said she needed to stay away from him and need a break because every time she'll be around him, she'll discuss how she feels. He would just gaslight the situation. Combs reached out to her. She also said in one of the text messages that she felt very suicidal and at one point felt like unaliving herself. Combs reached back to this lady and told this lady, listen, I'm about to release these hotel nights tapes of us, and I'm specifically going to send them to the father of your child, Mr. 50 Cent. She felt very scared and frightened because she did not really want anybody, including the father of her child, to see this video where she was heavily drugged and having smacks with so many different men. She was scared. She reached out to Christina Korn, which is also known as KK, which is the chief executive of Diddy. Basically run his life, almost like Giselle ran Epstein, like that's KK. If she testified, Diddy's done. Diddy just KK reached out to her and said, do not worry about it. I will assure you that these tapes do not get released. She told the court at this point she felt like she was being blackmailed and really did not want to have anything else to do with Combs or perform any more hotel nights. The court asked her, so you registered to be on OnlyFans in 2024? She said yes, because I needed to stand on my 2 feet and start making my own money. Now, we all know what OnlyFans website is, so I don't know what she was putting out there on the OnlyFans, but y'all can figure it out. Now, in February 2024, Jane testified on the stand that she, Miss Jane, who just said she wanted to be independent and go do her OnlyFans, just testified in Miami in February 2024, she had smacks with another man right in front of him. She felt like she was obligated to because she was still staying in one of his residences. And at that point, when Homeland Security raided multiple of his residents, she was actually there in one of them. She was the one who alerted his security and let them know, listen, they're coming for all his residents. But Jane, girl, I was just rooting for you. Like, women. I just don't know Jane. I just know. She also testified that a Smacks worker reached out to Combs and said that he has a tape of them with Jane involved in it that he videotaped on his cell phone. I'm trying to figure out how he got it because Sean was the conductor, director everything. How did he get that? But he got it, and he told Mr. Combs if he give him $10,000, he could get it back. But Mr. Combs did not give him that money, so that video was sold to an undisclosed XX company out there, but that video has not been shown yet, so who knows, it might come out after this. We'll see. They later met up to discuss the Cassie video. Actually, she said when that video took place, she was actually waiting for him. So after that incident, he went right to Jane Doe. They met up. He tried to discuss how should he approach the situation. Should he just deny it? Later on, he ended up doing an apology video, which we all witnessed. She also said later on, she was very terrified. They got into a really bad argument at his home regarding him dating somebody 25 years older than him, which is Young Miami. She calls him all kind of names. Jane ended up calling him a pedophile and was so upset with him, took his head, Combs' head, and slammed it into a marble countertop. Baby, she was upset, honey, because he was spending more time with Young Miami. Girl, move on. So, yes, Combs got up, baby. He went into a rage. She said this was the beating of her life. She did not think was going to happen. He grabbed her. He slammed her. into the master bedroom, into the door, her master bedroom door. She ran from it. She hid in the closet. He got in the closet, grabbed her by the head. He kicked her in the back. She was trying to run. He kicked her in the thigh. She managed to get away. She ran outside. He had bust like her whole head. He kept kicking her head, but she managed to get away. She got outside. The whole property, it's a big property. So she stayed out there hoping that he would leave. He did not leave. She came back in the backyard. She found a spot to hide in. He found her, and she just was she curled up like a fetal position, protecting her head while he was just kicking her in the head. Whoo, child. Diddy, you is a natural born. You do not have to put your hands on women. Like, fight these men you be paying to have free calls with. Like, I'm just so sick of it. After he had punched her in the head so many times, he didn't grab her by the hair and drag her back into the home. Yes. Make her take an exit pay. Had a smack worker show up. And then had this lady perform or on the smack worker while he sat there and watch. Whew, it's a lot. It's a lot, baby. She is beaten up. This girl is beaten up. She said after the beating, she had bruises on her forehead, knots here from where he was like kicking her, hitting her. He told her to cover up with makeup. Yes, you know, we know Cassie had to go get some surgery done because he had busted her face right here. So he told her to cover up with makeup. The court was showing damages of the home, the doors that he had tore down. I don't know what. Did he get made? He just get like a super villain, just like Kid Cudi said. Doors was knocked down or have damage. The damage that he did, all that was displayed for the jurors to see. She said that it did end up making up. He love bombed her in Miami. They had a good 2 days of just enjoying each other and having smacks. One night they went back. They were just having fun. She fell asleep. She woke up. This man splashing water in her face, telling her to wake up and calling her the B name. Like, wake up, B. What you think this is? Little did you know, he had another smack worker waiting for her. And she was like, she was tired. She just didn't know what to do. He wanted her to perform right now. She performed. She was disgusted. She was tired while he sat there and watched. The prosecution asked her, how did she feel about him at this moment in time? She said, all I do is just pray for him. I pray for his health. I pray that he find the love that he needs. All I can do right now is pray for him. Court was dismissed. They will continue with her testimony tomorrow. She will be crossed. After lunch, court.
Hey, y'all, let's break down what happened this morning in the Diddy trial and what could potentially end this entire case. We picked up with Jane still on the stand this morning under direct examination from AUSA Comey. She detailed messages and voice notes between her and Diddy that paint a disturbing picture of psychological control, financial control, sexual coercion, and manipulation. She testified about being flown to New York where she believed she would spend one-on-one time with Diddy, but was instead pressured into sex acts involving entertainers like Sly. This seems like a very common occurrence with them. She told him, I'm not a porn star. This is desensitizing sex for me. And even said, it's been 3 years of me having to strangers. Now, why does this even matter? The prosecution is using her testimony to show a pattern, not just a messy relationship, but organized exploitation involving assistants, security, and entertainers across cities and states. That's what RICO is about, a criminal enterprise. They even played a voice note from Diddy where he says, this is a true open relationship. Why do you have to make it a problem? Meanwhile, Jane explains that she felt coerced, used, and emotionally drained. She said when she read Cassie's lawsuit, it was like reading her own story. But here's where the defense could push back. She repeatedly told him that she loved him. She admitted in one message, I know I was consenting, and explained that he often told her that videos make it look like she wanted to do it. That's a window the defense might use to argue these were consensual adult encounters, even if emotionally complicated. Also, Jane says she's still trying to figure out if she was truly coerced, something the defense may latch on to undermine the clarity of her claims. If it even matters, since the defense is now demanding a mistrial, saying that another witness, Brianna Bana, committed perjury. They said she testified that Diddy dangled her off of a hotel balcony in LA in September of 2016. But the problem is Diddy's team says that he was provably in New York that entire week, and hotel records support that. They're accusing the prosecution of knowingly letting her lie under oath, and that is serious. If the judge agrees that this was intentional misconduct, the entire case could be thrown out. The judge said he'll rule on the mistrial motion tomorrow, but right now court is at lunch and the prosecution plans to wrap up their direct of Jane by the end of the day today.
Diddy trial, day 19. Now, before
Would y'all perform these hotel nights for the right price? If Diddy said he was paying you the right price, whatever you want to charge, would you perform these hotel nights? Let's get into it. Week 5, day 19 of the Diddy trial. So like I said, court started actually Saturday. They had asked for this mistrial, all because of this lady right here saying it was a prosecution of misconduct, which means that the prosecution knew that this lady, Ms. Brianna Banglo, got on the stand and her whole testimony was false, and they still put her in the stand. That was not granted. Again, remember, this is their second time asking for a mistrial, and I don't really think this judge is going to give it to them for the simple fact this is his first big case, so he probably want to see this all the way through. That's my opinion. So I'm gonna see if there's gonna be a third time asking for a mistrial. Let's continue on with Miss Jane Doe, who is also taking a stand next. So, of course, started with Jane Doe testifying regarding an incident where she had asked Mr. Combs to take her on. He had promised her a yacht, to take her on a yacht after a hotel night. Combs did not do that. Instead, she saw on social media that he took another young lady on this yacht. Another young lady could be Young Miami. That's who I remember. Yes, so she was upset about it. She confronted Mr. Combs about it. He just dismissed her regard and later on met him in a hotel, and he told her not to worry because there was no smacks performed during this yacht party. She later found out on a podcast he was lying because he was boasting about all of the smacks he had with this other young lady that he had took. So she confronted him about it. He just dismissed her as he usually do. All she wanted is this man love, and all this man want from her is just to continue to perform these hotel nights as Cassie was doing her freak offs. Let's continue. She texted Mr. Combs in October 2023. Let me read you exactly what she said. Ooh, child. She texted Combs saying she did not want to be used and locked in a room to perform and fulfill his sexual fantasies. She's getting bold now. She's getting pretty tired, okay? Combs felt obligated. She said she felt obligated to perform these acts due to the fact that he was paying for the roof over her head. Let me tell you, young ladies, baby, get a job, okay? Get a job, save up your coins, pay for your own housing, all right? Now, if you have a man, he feel like paying for it, that is fine, but learn how to pay for your own stuff so you won't have to deal with situations like this. Let's continue. She said she was growing tired of having smacks with strangers and that she needed a break from him. He texted her in October 2023, "Hey, I miss you." She responded, "Hey, text someone else. I am not your porn star." She said he got into a huge argument because he kept pressuring her to set up these hotel nights with other men, like 2 or 3 men. She told him, "Listen, I only want to be with you. Like, what is the problem? You're the only one I want to be with. Why do we need other men in the bedroom to just enjoy each other?" He responded, "Listen, baby girl, that was not the plan. We have a love contract. Cut all that mess out." She got frustrated. She told him, "Listen, I think I do need a break from you because this is becoming too much for me." So she became a distance herself from him. She did not reach out to him. She did not call him or nothing. He reached out back to her and said, "Listen, I miss you. I want to be with you. It can just be us. Let's just chill. I promise to love bomb you." I guess that was their language for he's going to shower her with love going forward, or for that specific night. So that's their love bomb. She was like, okay, she fell for it. They got back together the same month in October, but they did a lot of things this month, honey. October 2023, he took her to Beverly Hills Hotel, the same hotel he took Cassie to. Yeah, the same hotel where they already know him as Frank Black. He took Cassie to. Baby, she ended up having smacks with 3 men. During the session, she said she did not feel good. She felt sick. She had told him she had to leave. She had to go throw up. Combs come behind her, was like, "Yo, baby girl, what's going on? What's going on? You got to get back in and finish this action. Like, we got a movie scene going on right now." She was like, "I do not feel good." So he made her go back in there and apologize to the smacks worker, like, for even getting sick and leaving. That's some messed up shit. Because if I throw up, baby, I'm exiting, okay? I don't care what's going on. Cut the scene, whatever, pause it, make that scene do what it do, add who you want to do, but I'm leaving. This man is crazy. After that incident, somehow that's when Cassie filed her lawsuit. She continued to distance herself because she was just really done with this man. She was like, listen, you treat me like an animal. Like, that's all I am to you, an animal. Like, you just breeding me just nonstop, pound, pound, pound. So she distanced herself, but then Cassie's lawsuit came out. She read the lawsuit, child. She said she almost fainted because everything in that lawsuit was like a mirror of what she is going through. Everything from word to word, she saw everything. She called him and said she can't believe this. Everything she's been going through is just like what Cassie went through. Did on the phone like, all right, like which which woman to say? This man has no guts. But he was just like, that time he was having fun with his new thing on the side, which was Young Miami. So she was jealous of Young Miami because she felt like she was giving this man everything he wanted, his fantasy. And here this other lady go getting everything that she want and don't even have to ask for his time. And all Jane wanted was his time. So Diddy was really scared that time about this lawsuit, honey. So when he saw that she was distancing herself, he called her and played. You know how your guys do. Play this little, oh baby, I love you, I need you. This is exactly what he told her. Combs pleaded for Jane's support and said, I just need to feel friendship. I need your friendship. You know you ain't got nothing to worry about baby. Please pray for me. Please pray for me and I will pray for you. What does she need prayer for? Prayer to stay away from you? Now you're feeling guilty because the lawsuit came out. That's what it is. But
Diddy trial, day 19. Now,
we try.
Diddy trial, day 19.
So, this Diddy trial is crazy. Okay.
Okay, it is June 9th. It is.
Today is day 19 of the Diddy trial, and Jane Doe is still on the stand today for the prosecution, and then she will have cross-examination tomorrow. Jane Doe stated that she was so angry with the diddler when he talked about how he went on that yacht for 48 hours on a date and had great time making love and all that stuff. She said she overheard him talking about it on the podcast. She went off on him about it, and he told her, I'm a single man. This is an open relationship, and you need to act as such. That's just podcast talk. You're going over the top, doing too much. Why don't you come to New York and see me so we can spend time together? She said, I don't mind coming to New York to see you, spend time together. As long as we're spending time together and having movie nights and we're not having all-star parties. So she explained last week what movie nights are. Movie nights are basically where they get together and they spend time watching his favorite movies, their favorite foods, giving him massages, all the different stuff, like regular couple stuff. And then when they finish the night, they will watch movies that they've made together with just the two of them, if you know what I'm talking about. On this portable TV that moves around the house on wheels that she bought him. They would watch the videos on there. And they had their own special phone that they would use, which was like iPhone, for their personal videos. And she noticed that when he had went out of town and came back out of town, you know, with that other person, she got angry with him because, were you using this phone to make videos over there with them and this and that? And he was like, no, I was not. I was doing that. This is our phone. Why are you tripping? Don't do me like that. Just send me some pictures and videos of you being bad. Not ones I already have, just other ones. So he basically like wanted her to send him, you know, videos and things of that nature. And she went on to talk about like how every time they were together with these other people for the hotel nights, which are like the debaucheries, aka the FOs, he would always want her to be with the entertainers, is what she calls them, which is basically like the escorts, multiple times, and sometimes multiple of them in one night. She talked about a time where they had did the All-Star at the hotel because she was like trying to make up for the fight that they had got into about him taking the girl on the yacht for that vacation for those days, and how she got sick during the time when they were doing these parties, right? So that night that they had the All-Star party, she got sick. So she was with Anton, then she was with Paul, she got sick. And then once she finished being sick and she vomited, she told Diddy that she was sick and she was vomiting. He's like, good, because the third guy is here. She's like, you just want me to be with these people for you. You know, she says something way more explicit, but I can't say that. So I feel like at this moment in time, he's almost like an addict. I feel like Diddy is like an addict. Like he's addicted to this stuff. Today is day 19 of the Diddy trial, and Jane Doe is still on the stand today.
It is Monday, day 19 in the Diddy trial, and a lot going on already this morning. Apparently on Saturday, his attorneys tried to file for a mistrial again. His team wrote to the judge trial for what they claimed was prosecutorial misconduct, alleging that the prosecutors knew that one of the witnesses' testimony was false. Back on the stand this morning is his former girlfriend, who's going by the name Jane. She has testified that she was concerned that Sean would take explicit videos of her on his primary 2 cell phones because people on his team knew the security code to those devices. She also testified about a time that he had promised to take her on a yacht trip after a hotel night, and then she saw on social media that he went on this yacht trip with someone else. Later, he tried to calm her down and say that nothing happened, yet he then went on a podcast boasting about this trip and how much smecks he had had. They then showed the court text messages from Jane to Sean in 2023 where she said, I don't want to be used and locked in a room to perform and fulfill your fantasies. Later that same day, she had texted she didn't want to fly to New York to be a hoe for the millionth time in a hotel room. She testified that with Sean paying her rent, she felt that there was an obligation to perform regularly for him. She felt guilt-trippy things and said that it was hard living under the roof that Sean paid for. She recalled an incident from 2023 where she had to have sex with a cowboy wearing heels. In October of 2023, she had reached a boiling point with Sean. He was texting her saying he missed her, and she said, call someone else, I'm not a porn star. She testified that her and Sean would get into fights over arranging hotel nights. Texts between them dated October 15, 2023, show that Sean insisted Jane not say no to him. She responded that he made it very clear what he wants from her. She said she grew
Y'all hit
frustrated.
the like
All
and
she wanted from
subscribe.
Sean was love and respect, and these were things that she saw him giving to other people so easily. She said she spoke to him about not wanting to have sex with other men. She said whenever she would tell him that she didn't want to do these hotel nights anymore, he would just love bomb her. In text messages from October of 2020, he wrote back that he wanted to see her and that they didn't have to have sex. But Jane called out Sean in her response, writing that she knew he was going to spend the day love bombing her, but that she has hit a wall. Jane said it was a pattern for him. Whenever he wanted to have hotel nights, he would love bomb her and manipulate. At this point, she had become more vocal about her disdain for having to perform with other men for Sean. She said to him, you treat me like an animal, and she was tired of having to do all this dirty stuff for him. Jane also recalls the time that he made her have sex with 3 men. She at one point had to get up and go throw up. He came to check on her, but then said she needed to come back to the party. Jane said that even though she wanted to leave, she felt like she couldn't. At the heart of the matter was the financial control that he had over her, paying her rent. It was like the home was being used as leverage, threatening the roof over my head. She also testified about seeing herself in the footage that Sean took of these hotel nights. She says, I saw Meet Me in High. I was following a pattern, the pattern I thought he wanted to see. They had asked her if she thought that during these hotel nights she was doing this on her own free will, and she said, I'm still trying to figure that out. She also testified that she practically fainted when she saw that Cassie had filed a lawsuit against Sean, and when reading through it, she felt like she was reading about her own trauma. Jane said that she texted Sean a few days after Cassie
Eat
had
that
filed her
my
lawsuit,
food.
referencing the
That brown
similarities
bag.
between her experience and Cassie's. She said, "The sick part is that you knew this was coming and you gaslit me and made me feel crazy about the SMEX trauma I was developing, knowing you had been here before. It's also clear this was sexual exploitation that you framed as love for your own sick fetish." She said Sean didn't respond for 2 days, and he eventually just said, "Call me on this phone, important." The jury then hears a recorded phone call between Jane and Sean from November of 2023. The recording came from a phone that belonged to Christina Karam, his former chief of staff, and Jane said she didn't know that anyone was recording her phone call. You hear Sean saying stuff about the hotel nights, saying that I thought it was kinky stuff we were both into and both enjoyed. I need you to be there for me. At this point, they take a lunch break. She's going to be back on the stand after the break. You know, I will post. It is Monday, day 19. It is Monday, day 19 in the Diddy trial, and this is the recap after the lunch break. In text messages from December 2023, you see that Jane is trying to distance herself from Sean. She says in one text message she's crying and troubled, insisting that she no longer wants to do these hotel nights for him and urges that he get female sex workers rather than emotionally hiring women who love him. Later that same month, she texts him that he's never satisfied. He wrote back that he didn't want to fight with her and asked her how to move forward. Jane told the court that after Cassie's lawsuit was filed in November of 2023, she didn't see Sean until February of 2024, and says that at that time they were on a break. Late 2023, she told Sean she needed to stay away from him, accusing him of gaslighting her. In a series of text messages shown to the court, Jane said it was best for her to stay clear of Sean, who didn't seem to understand her need for this distance. "I wrote that because he was trying to work my reality again. Every time I would speak the truth or tell him how I was feeling, he would move on from whatever I was talking about." Testified that at the end of 2023, she also had suicidal thoughts. In late December 2023, Sean threatened to release sex tapes of Jane and show them to her baby's father. Jane said that she texted Christina Karam, Sean's employee, to alert her of the situation, and those text messages were entered into evidence. Jane says that in early 2024, she joined OnlyFans platform so that she could stand on her own 2 feet. "I wanted to reclaim having my independence and not rely on anyone." Jane did testify that in February 2024 in Miami, she did have an encounter with Sean and another man after having vowed to steer clear of him. She told the court that she was still living in a residence that Sean paid for in March of 2023 when Homeland Security raided her residence. She said when HSI agents arrived at her home, she did call Sean's head of security to alert him of the matter, and that at that time she was represented by 2 different lawyers, both of whom were paid for by Sean. Jane also testified that a SMEX worker asked for $10,000 to keep a SMEX tape of himself and Jane under wraps. The man, identified only as Cabral, said Sean shot the video on his cell phone, thus giving the SMEX worker easy access to the footage. An undisclosed media company purchased the footage, Jane said, but the explicit video has not been publicly shown. She also testified that Sean invited her to a huddle that he put together last year to address the fallout from CNN's release of the Cassie Hotel video. She told the court that Sean was attempting to come up with denying the video, but eventually posting an apology video to social media. Later, when she and Sean spoke about the video, Jane said that he told her it was the only time he had engaged in physical violence with Cassie. Jane says after she flew back from Miami in May of 2024, she didn't see Sean again until June 18th, 2024. She remembers the date because it was a very terrible day. They planned for a date night in the house where she lived with Sean, coming to Los Angeles after a family trip to Utah. Sean's assistant, Jonathan, came over to help her set up the house with decor and candles and to stock the fridge. When Sean arrived, they spent time catching up in the backyard. The jury saw photos and a video Jane took of Sean that night. In the video, music is playing and Sean could be heard talking. Jane starts to ask him or confront him about other women. She calls him a pedo. Apparently, some girl he was talking to was 25 years younger than him. They start arguing back and forth. At one point, she's throwing candles at him. He's cursing and calling her crazy. She realizes the fight is escalating. She locks herself in the master bedroom and Sean kicks the door open. She said he literally kicked the door off the hinges. She then runs into the master closet and is trying to change because she's like, I need to escape. She managed to get outside. She said she didn't want to wake up the neighbors, so she hid by a wall outside until she thought Sean had been gone. She said she thinks she was there for 2 hours. At this point, she starts to walk back towards the house because she thinks Sean is gone. She goes to the guest house, locks the door, and Sean kicks the door down. She starts throwing candles at him again and is trying to get away. She says, I punched him and he punched me. She said she ran into the backyard and went into a ball on the ground trying to cover her head. He started punching my head. He started kicking me. He started saying all kinds of things and just kept punching me. He grabs me by my arm and my hair and starts dragging me back to the house. So now they're back in the master bedroom and she uses Sean's phone to call the girl that she thinks he went on this trip with. And she said the girl started insulting her while the phone call was on speaker. Sean was holding me down and making me listen to her insults. She then starts yelling to the girl like he just beat me up and he hurries up and hangs up the phone. He later FaceTimed one of his assistants and told him to tell Jane that there wasn't a girl on that trip. Jane says she then goes to get in the shower. She realizes she has a black eye and 2 big knots on her head. Sean comes into the shower and she is telling him that she hates him. He smacks her 3 times and knocks her down to the ground. After this, she said he's using her phone to watch pornography and is also texting a entertainer that they've used before for hotel nights. Jane says after the beating, Sean says to her, is this coercion? Before making her take ecstasy. He then had Anton, a Smex worker that they hired before, come to the house. She had to perform oral on him. She felt like it took forever. As Sean was watching, she felt disgusted and terrible. She testified that he had his assistant and security guard deliver $10,000 in cash to cover the damages he did to her home that night. They showed the jury photos of the damage. Apparently her bedroom door, guest room door, bathroom door, and closet door had all been kicked in. The jury was also shown a video where you can see the bruising around her eye and knots on her forehead. When she was asked how she feels about Sean now, she says, I pray for his continued healing and pray for peace for him. The jury was dismissed for the day, and that's a wrap.
Diddy trial, day 9. Okay, Diddy trial.
Welcome back to day 19 of the United States versus Sean Diddy Combs, part 3. Yes, this is a 3-part.
Diddy trial, day 19.
Most of Jane's testimony today centered around the period post-November of 2023. That was the date and time where Cassie Ventura's civil lawsuit against Sean Combs came out. The prosecutor asked her today what was her reaction after that lawsuit came out. She said, I almost fainted. In fact, I think I did. The prosecutor said, why? And she said, because there were 3 specific pages in that 35-page document that kind of highlighted everything that she experienced with Combs. She said that I was bewildered. I was in shock. On the next page, she was telling us
that she couldn't sleep. She was reading through everything, and she, of course, reached out to Sean Combs. He said in response at some point that he was stressed and sad, and eventually we saw some messages that she sent back to him. I read this one second because she ended up repeating it, so I got down the quote a little bit better. She said, "You knew that this was coming, and you gaslit me and made me feel crazy." After that, she said, it was so clear that this was sexual exploitation. Most of Jane's testimony today centered around the period.
Here are the key takeaways from day 19 of testimony in the Diddy trial. Over the weekend, the defense filed another motion for a mistrial, claiming that Brianna Bongolan's testimony last week was false. She testified over the alleged balcony incident, and she had a few of her dates confused, so they're trying to get a mistrial on that. The judge said that he would address that mistrial motion tomorrow. One of Diddy's accusers and an ex-girlfriend testifying under the pseudonym Jane returned to the stand on Monday. The jury was shown a lot of text messages today, starting with some text messages where Jane texted Diddy saying that she felt like she was being used and no longer wanted to be used for these hotel nights, and she felt obligated to do it because he was paying to keep a roof over her head. Diddy dismissed her concerns and told her that they would have a proper New York trip, so she got on a plane in September of 2023 to go see him in New York. Once on the plane, she got a text message from Diddy saying that he was contacting one of the male entertainers to have a hotel night. She said that she felt defeated and that this was what she had come to expect. The following month, October 2023, Diddy had asked Jane to set up a hotel night while he was with another woman. She told him no. She said that she was not an animal. She said that she did not want to be used for these hotel nights anymore. She said that it was taking a toll on her body, to which he said that they were breaking up then. She said she never suggested breaking up. She just did not want to do the hotel nights anymore. Jane said that whenever he wanted a hotel night, he would begin love bombing her to get his way. She said she met up with him in October 2023 for a sobriety party. The sobriety party turned into a hotel night. She said that after performing with two men, she got sick, to which Diddy said, "Great, now you'll feel better," and had her perform with the third man. Following that incident, there were some text messages exchanged saying that he was risking her health, and she also asked him for money and said that she would not leave the relationship quietly like Gina or Cassie. Following that text exchange, she went over to Diddy's house in what she called one of her favorite moments. She said that they were talking and she felt like for the first time he was really absorbing what she was saying and her concerns. She said that they spent a few days together, but as it got closer to his birthday on November 4th, she decided to leave because she knew he would want to party and would want to use her to party. Jane recalled learning of Cassie's 2023 lawsuit. She said that she had never met Cassie other than a few times in Crossing before, but other than that had never contacted her. She said upon reading that lawsuit, she felt there was a harrowing resemblance between Cassie's lawsuit and her experience. She said she reached out to Diddy, and she said the sick part of it was that as she was developing this trauma, he would gaslight her about the trauma, knowing that he has been here before. The jury heard a recorded phone call between Diddy and Jane. It was recovered from Christina Cram's phone. She is Diddy's former chief of staff. Jane says she didn't know that she was being recorded at the time. However, she could hear Diddy taking notes on the other line. Diddy talked to her saying that he felt that they both enjoyed the hotel nights and that he was unaware that Jane didn't like them. He also said that he really needed her to be there for him. That phone call took place in November of 2023. This was shortly after Cassie filed her lawsuit. Then in December of 2023, Jane had texted Diddy telling him to stop using women for his fetishes and to stop emotionally harming women that love him. He got very defensive and asked her if she was recording phone calls between the two of them. In another text message from the end of 2023, Jane was talking about the hotel nights in which Diddy accused her of setting him up. She said that she never had any plans to file a lawsuit against him. She says that the text message served as a way for her to vent to the only person she could about the hotel nights because she never confided in anybody else about them because it was her shameful dark secret. Diddy told her to charge him an amount that would help her get over it. Then when she gave him an amount, he called her a con artist and said that he was going to show the sex tapes to the father of her child. Jane said during their break in communication in January of 2024, she felt calm. She even went on a trip to Las Vegas with her friends on a rapper's plane. She said that when in Las Vegas, they went back to the rapper's hotel room, and while in the hotel room, one of the male escorts that she had known from one of the hotel nights with Diddy was there having sex with a woman while the others watched. She did not name that rapper or any of the other people present in her testimony. She said Diddy then reached out to her in February of 2024, and she responded because she missed him. Diddy told Jane that he wanted to spend her birthday with her. However, she was hesitant to agree because the past few birthdays were spent with her doing hotel nights. She said eventually she did agree to go to Miami with him. While there, he set up a private dinner with decorations and gifts for her.
Then they started drinking and taking ecstasy, and then in the early morning hours, he proposed a hotel night. She said she agreed because she just learned to accept that this was the outcome of whatever they were doing. She said they had some more hotel nights after getting back together in 2024. They would either be in Miami at his house or in LA at her house. They never went out in public together because of everything that was going on around that time. Jane says in March of 2024, Diddy said they should go their separate ways peacefully. She believes that it was a way for him to cover up that he was seeing another woman. And then he asked her to sign a contract so he could have complete closure. In March of 2024, when Diddy's homes were raided, on the day that they were raided, Homeland Security left a business card at Jane's residence. She did not talk to anyone from Homeland Security that day. She called Diddy and his security guard. Eventually, Diddy paid for her to have a lawyer. He is still paying for the lawyer that is representing her today. Shortly after the raids, one of the male entertainers reached out to Jane and said that he was going to release a sex tape that he had on his phone because Diddy had recorded one of the videos on his phone. He said that for $10,000 he wouldn't release it. Jane then reached out to Diddy, who got his legal team involved, and then it was never acknowledged that he had the video. Jane says that later on a big media company reached out to her and said that they had bought the video and asked if she wanted to comment on it, to which she did not comment on it. She said that that video was never released. She does not know why, nor did she ever talk to the male entertainer again. She says that she was with Diddy the day that this CNN released the video of Cassie in the hotel. She said that they were at his house. He was in huddles all day with his family talking about releasing a sincere apology video. She said that they didn't personally talk about what happened in the video, though, however, a few days later they began talking about it. He said that that was the only time that he ever got physically violent with Cassie and that she was a hitter and would hit him. Then in June of 2024, Diddy was over Jane's house one night. Jane had accused him of being with another woman on a family trip in Utah, and it started to get physically violent. As the altercation escalated, Diddy had kicked down doors in her master bedroom, bathroom, and closet. She tried to escape. She was throwing candles at him, and he began to beat her. Once the physical altercation was over, he said that he was inviting one of the male entertainers over because he was not going to let a night end the way that it did, physically violent like that. She said that he told her to cover up any of her injuries with makeup before the hotel night. A few days after the physical altercation, she said that Diddy had reached out to her, accused her of cheating, and then they broke up. Jane said the last time she saw Diddy was in August 2024. She was with him at his home, and he invited a male entertainer over for a hotel night. Jane is expected to return to the stand on Tuesday. The prosecution wanted Jane off the stand by Thursday because she has an international flight to catch. Here are the key takeaways from day 19 of testimony in the Diddy trial. Over the weekend,
Hey Bessies, welcome to day 19.
So now at this point, Diddy's like blowing her phone up. Like, he's like, did you get the text? Did you see it? Da da da, blah blah blah. So she's like, oh, I'm sorry, my bad connection, blah blah blah. So now a car pulls up. She goes into the car. She's assuming that it's
Diddy trial, day 19, part 2. Here we go. So he had sent her a message that said, check your red phone. I have a surprise for you. Just one. So she assumed he meant like another escort. So she kind of broke down a little bit, saying like how she hated that he was pairing her up with random men for his own fantasy. She texted him back like, you want to gaslight me? Because in the messages, he tried to flip it back like that's what she actually wanted. And she said, you created all of this evil that's inside of me. She said she bought him a mobile TV for his birthday thinking that would replace the entertainers. But then Cassie dropped her lawsuit against him. And she said she fainted when she was reading it. She said it was because she felt like she was reading her own story, word for word. After that, she said she sent text messages saying, God finally woke me up. She said she was having PTSD from all of the trauma she endured. And she journaled in her notes app to cope. And she said even though she saw Diddy after all of this had transpired, and even though he hugged her, she was still trying to convince herself that she was okay. She said, and I quote, I know I was consenting, like he said. If anyone saw the videos, they'd think I wanted it. But I'm still trying to figure that out. Because she actually did not want it. but she felt like she had no choice. I think they're not just providing testimony, but they're providing like a trauma timeline. And if this would tell y'all anything, it should help y'all remember that manipulation doesn't always look violent. Sometimes it looks like control disguised as love. I'm back, y'all. We got more to cover. Diddy trial, day 19, part 2. Here we go. So he...
Y'all hit the like and subscribe button.
So this is day 19 of the Diddy trial, okay?
Trying to get out of Dodge. Trying to find somewhere like peaceful.
After the break, the prosecutor showed text messages from October of 2023 where Diddy said to Jane Doe, "I want to spend the day with you." And she replied saying, "You make it crystal clear what you want me for." And then she asked him, "You're going to spend the day love bombing me?" And she explained to the jury that love bombing was a very common manipulation pattern that she would get from Diddy, where he would shower her with affection and then he'd want a hotel night. So she responded to him again saying, "I'm not an animal people can F on." And he responds with, "You're crazy." She said that he would call her crazy often, especially if she said she was uncomfortable with doing a hotel night. And then she said, "You want me to do explicit things so you can jet off with Gina. I'm drained." He tells her, "I'll leave you alone," but then he starts talking about the home she's in, which he pays rent for. He says to her, "That's my house too. I'm coming over. Are you gonna let me in our house?" But then she says that she did see him after that, and they had a sobriety party at the hotel where she had first gone to a concert. Like always, it turned into a hotel night, and she said after the concert, she went with one of Diddy's security guards to a store to get supplies, and he texted her, calling her the B word, and he said to her, "What the F is taking so long?" She said when she got to the hotel, his assistant tells her, "You don't deserve to be called the B word." She did not want to take substances at the hotel, but she did and said that she threw up, and Diddy told her, "It's good that you threw up, you'll feel better now." And then she said that night there were 3 men, which were Rico, Paul, and Anton. In the aftermath, she said she texted Diddy to help furnish her home, but he had ignored her text message. So she texted him again saying, "You weren't too busy to make sure Chelsea was ready in DC," and that's when he sent her a voice note. In it, he says, "I don't know where the F Chelsea is. I ain't no B word. Leave me the F alone. I'm single." She then responded saying, "What does the house have to do with what I'm saying? I'm not Gina or Cassie." And she said she mentioned their names out of anger. Also tells him, "You got me effed up. Just complete what you promised about the 2 years about the home and don't contact me," which is that he would be paying her rent for those 2 years. He tells her, "I'm super clear now." And she responds saying, "You had me on constant pins and needles. Now I'm sick. Leave me alone." He then brings up a prior relationship to her and he says, "I was told you were crazy. You took it too far, baby girl. You'll see." She then references that ex saying, "You're mad about a grown man. You wasted my time in this toxic relationship." Then she brought up Sly and Anton because apparently Diddy was trying to make her believe she wanted this. She set it up. So she said, "You invited me to New York to pair me with some random man, any mother effer for your own sick sexual desires." She tells him, "You placed all these harmful men on me and risked my health. You want me to believe I wanted these things." He tells her, "You and me have no beef." And she responds saying, "You created all this evil inside me. I regret everything, all this toxic ish which overran my life." And then he tells her, "You are burning a bridge that you are going to need tomorrow." She tells him, "I don't trust you." And he says, 10 hours ago, you loved me. Now this." He then tells her, "It's a free country. I'm an adult. You're an adult. You're writing a whole book about what you hate about me. We both made promises that we didn't keep. If you don't want to talk to me, there's nothing I can do." So then she says, which I'm sure his defense team is going to hone in on this, she tells him, "You knew I would finish strong. Pep talks to keep me performing. I know I was consenting. Like you said, you didn't know I didn't want it. This is my truth. I love you very much. I need to take a pause." The prosecutor asked her, "Why did you tell him you knew you were consenting?" And she said, "I pick up the word from him. He said if anyone saw these videos, they'd say you wanted it."
When asked if that was true, she said, "I'm still trying to figure that out." But she said when she sees herself in these videos, she sees a person that is high, following a pattern and performing. So the prosecutor pulls up something she wrote in her notes at the time, to which she wrote, "I am having PTSD from these nights." But despite the back and forth, she did admit to going to his home that same day, and they had a conversation, and she felt like he was hearing her out. She said, "He hugged me," and then the prosecutor showed the jury 2 photos she took from that day in the master bedroom with Diddy. She then said his birthday was approaching, which is November 4th, and she was nervous about having a hotel night, but she said thankfully he was spending it with his family. As a gift, she bought him a mobile TV because she wanted movie nights to replace their hotel nights. Then November 16th came, and that's when Cassie filed her lawsuit, and she said, "I almost fainted. I think I did." She said that there were 3 pages in Cassie's lawsuit that had a harrowing resemblance to her own experience. It was like reading my own story, exactly my experience and my anguish. She texts Diddy later saying, "I feel like I'm reading my own sexual trauma. God finally woke me up about this cycle." When asked if she had ever met Cassie, she said one time in 2015 at a fashion show that was celebrating Diddy. The jury then heard a recorded call between Diddy and Jane Doe that happened that November, which was recorded and later found on Christina Koram's phone. And she testified that she had no idea at the time anybody else was listening to the call or that she was being recorded. He tries to tell her that he really can't talk on the phone, but he wants to make her feel better. And she says to him, "Who's there for me when I close my eyes and I have these effed up things in my head?" But he tells her that these hotel nights were just some kinky I thought that we both, you know what I'm saying, enjoyed. He then tells her, "I need you to be there for me," and asks if she was recording him, but she told the jury she wasn't. Before ending the call, he tells her if she needs anything to call Christina Koram. And then he tells her, "You know you ain't got to worry about nothing else," and she testified that she knew he was referring to her rent. This is where they stop for lunch, and I will be back when she's back on the stand. After the break, the prosecutor showed text messages from October of 2023 where Diddy said to Jane Doe, "I want to spend the day with you," and she replied saying, "You make it crystal clear what you want me for." After the break, the prosecutor showed text messages from October of 2023 where Diddy said to Jane Doe, "I want..." It's day 19 of Diddy's trial, and Jane Doe is back on the stand, and the prosecutor is expecting to finish with her today, and then they will start cross-examination. She starts off by talking about a trip she took to New York in 2023, where she received a text message from Diddy asking her to send him photos of her being bad. He tells her, "I got the phones, just send me what I don't have. Don't say no to me, please." He explained that Diddy had 2 phones where his assistants had full access to it, but then he had another phone where they had their private stuff on. She said she was disturbed to find out that he had taken that phone with him, possibly to use it on another woman. Said to him, "You're traveling with our phone. You're using this to get your bleep hard for someone else." But she refused and felt like the only reason he wanted her to come to New York was for another hotel night. She also explained that she had just watched a podcast interview where Diddy had bragged about the fact that he spent 48 hours on a yacht doing you know what, and she said it was a trip he had promised to take her on. She texted him saying, "You took her to the Bahamas on a yacht, not me, like you promised." And then she opened up her notes and she wrote, "I don't want to come to New York to be treated like a..." She said she wrote it in her notes because she didn't know if she was actually going to send it to him, but she did end up sending a version of that to him. He tells her that was just podcast talk. So then she quoted something he said on the podcast back to him where he says, "You made Papa proud." She also texted him again saying, "I don't want to feel obligated that you'll stop paying my rent." She explained that these are things that he would say to guilt trip her into doing those things that she didn't want to do. And she said she had felt that way since April of 2023. Prosecutors then played a voice note of Diddy that he had sent her where he says, "This is a true open relationship. Why do you have to make it a problem? Now I'm sick." She then testified that she had asked him to FaceTime her, and he did. He tried to calm her down and reassure her that he will take her on a proper New York trip with shopping and dinner and no hotel nights. So on the flight to New York, he texted her again and he said, "Where's Sly?" which is one of the male entertainers. He then texted her again saying, "Entertainment or movie night, let me know, I'll get a hotel." She had testified previously what movie night is. It's not your typical movie night. It was a night where she didn't want to do the things he wanted her to do, so they would watch their own videos and do their own thing. She said she had felt upset, disappointed, and defeated and had hoped for a romantic reconnection, and Diddy texted her saying, I have a surprise for you, just one. She broke down sobbing on the stand saying, I understood that to mean he had someone new. When she landed, she had suggested Casa Cipriani, but instead he took her to the Trump Hotel, and she said he arrived late, they bickered, and eventually ended up at a lounge. When they got back to the hotel, she dressed in lingerie, Sly came, and then they had a hotel night. She testified that the new surprise entertainer didn't go as planned, so she wanted to make it up to Diddy, and she texted Sly herself to have it arranged for him to come to New York. She also coordinated the cash payment that was left in an envelope at the Trump Hotel for Sly, but it was funded by Diddy. Shortly after, she saw him again in Miami, where Sly was also brought in. He wanted to rewatch footage of what happened in New York and planned a part 2. She said these patterns of these hotel nights being disguised as trips became really exhausting for her. She believed would be romance or quality time would constantly turn into hotel nights. By October of 2023, Diddy had asked her to arrange another hotel night, but she saw on Instagram that he was back with an ex-girlfriend. He texted him saying, you've got that girl next to you, figure it out. He replied to her saying, you're the only thing that puts me at peace, and she responded with, it's not me, it's the entertainment. Introduced her to Paul, which is a male entertainer. She told him, I'm not a porn star, I'm not an animal, these experiences are desensitizing the act for me. She also expressed that she felt like she had to earn love, respect, and basic romance where other women were getting it freely. She wrote, it's been 3 years of me having to F strangers. I need a break spiritually. And that was in a response to him asking if she was trying to break up. And she said, you always push me to do more and more. I need time to myself. This is where they took a mini break, but she is back on the stand and I will be back with more of her testimony. After the break, the prosecutor showed text messages from October of 2023 where Diddy said to Jane Doe, I want to spend the day with you. And she replied saying, you make it crystal clear what you want me for. And then she asked him, you're going to spend the day love bombing me? And she explained to the jury that love bombing was a very common manipulation pattern that she would get from Diddy, where he would shower her with affection and then he'd want a hotel night. So she responded to him again saying, I'm not an animal people can F on. And he responds with, you're crazy. She said that he would call her crazy often, especially if she said she was uncomfortable with doing a hotel night. And then she said, you want me to do explicit things so you can jet off with Gina. I'm drained. He tells her, I'll leave you alone, but then he starts talking about the home she's in, which he pays rent for. He says to her, that's my house too. I'm coming over. Are you gonna let me in our house? But then she says that she did see him after that and they had a sobriety party at the hotel where she had first gone to a concert. Like always, it turned into a hotel night, and she said after the concert, she went with one of Diddy's security guards to a store to get supplies, and he texted her, calling her the B word, and he said to her, what the F is taking so long? She said when she got to the hotel, his assistant tells her, you don't was so much that came up after the lunch break, and this was after Cassie filed her lawsuit, and we're going to get into all of it. I'm talking about one of the male entertainers trying to extort Jane Doe and Diddy crying, HSI raiding Jane Doe's home, Diddy hiring a lawyer for her and still paying for it, and having a team meeting with his team and his sons and Jane Doe after the Cassie hotel video came out. But it doesn't stop there, because she also talks about the fact that allegedly a media company reached out to her after buying one of her tapes. And yes, they also finally brought up Diddy's apology video. Let's break it all down. After Cassie filed her lawsuit in November of 2023, Jane Doe decided to step back, although they were texting here and there. Diddy had texted her asking if she was single and if she was trying to set him up. She texted him back saying, please stop using women for your fetish. Hire prostitutes instead of emotionally harming women who love you. He then tries to accuse her of recording their calls and blackmailing him, and she says, no, stop calling me. You'll never understand because you're so deep in your own lies. She then tells Diddy she wants the 3 years she spent with him reimbursed, $150 to move on from resentment, and $100K per year. Then calls her telling her, charge me for your resentment. I don't want any loose ends. It wasn't made clear on whether or not he did pay it, but he did continue paying her rent. Following month, he decides to threaten her and tell her that he's going to send her S-tapes to the father of her child, telling her he has nothing to lose. She then texted KK saying he threatened me. I was DRUGGED. In those tapes, I'm traumatized. KK responded by saying she's going to try and hide the tapes, but then urged her to give each other space. She started to break down on the stand and said she was having unaliving thoughts. And she said, I hated my life. I just wanted to DIE. A month after that, it's January of 2024. And she said she decided to join OF and started posting lingerie and implied nude content. She testified that she also had a friend named Bear who gave her $9,000 to promote his brand, but if she didn't want to, no big deal, here's the money. That same month, she said one of her rapper friends had a party in Vegas and they all got on his plane to attend this party. She said at the party, she recognized Anton, who's one of the male entertainers that she and Diddy have used multiple times, and said that was the only time she had ever seen him outside of their hotel nights. She made it clear her and the rapper, they were just friends. It was platonic. He had a girlfriend, but after the party, they all went back to the hotel room and they watched Anton having relations with another woman. And she told the court she found it jarring. A month after that, it's now February of 2024, Diddy had reached out and said he had a dream about her, and she tells the court, I missed him dearly. He had asked to spend her birthday together and asked what she wanted on her birthday, and she replied saying, I'm traumatized by what my past birthdays led to. But she did agree to meet him, and they met in Miami, and she said there were candles, they had a 5-course meal, there was balloons, and then they took X. Diddy asked her if she wanted to see Dawn. She says yes, and she tells the court, at this point, I'm just used to that being the outcome. I just accept it. The next few months in spring and summer of 2024, she would meet him in Miami or LA, but it would always be in his homes because he couldn't go out publicly. Reason being, she said things really hit the fan. A lot was going wrong in his life. The press was after him about Cassie's lawsuit. It didn't stop Diddy from having hotel nights though, because they would continue having them at his residence. She said she then showed him OF and how lucrative it was, and then he went through her phone, saw the text message between her and Bear, asked what the heck this was about, and she said he got upset, he got dressed, and she started crying because she felt misunderstood. Now, in March of 2024, he had asked her to sign something for closure, but she said she believed it to be him trying to protect himself legally. She told him, I'm tired, I hate living in fear. Was the roof over my head just going to come off? And he replied saying, you make your own money. Well, as you know, in March, his homes were raided and so was hers, and that's when he hired her an attorney. He admitted on the stand that that attorney is still being paid for by Diddy, and she said that was when she also got a call from Sly, a male entertainer. Sly tells Jane Doe that he has 35 minutes of S-tape between them and that Diddy had used Sly's phone to record one of the sessions. She asked Sly how much he wanted. He said $10K, so she called Diddy to let him know that Sly was trying to extort her. He said that was when Diddy started crying and said, get legal on it. He then let Sly know this is extortion and I'm not talking to you again. Soon after, a major media company calls her to let her know that they bought the tape. She fainted and then she called her lawyer. Obviously, because it's illegal, the video was never published and she said she never heard from Sly again. Then talks about being with Diddy in Miami when the Cassie Hotel video was released. He and Diddy were in a room. Someone knocked on the door and asked him to come out, and he went downstairs and everybody was talking. He said he was talking to his team and his family, and she decided to give them some space, but later they had a meeting. He said at the meeting was Diddy, his team, his sons, and her, and they were trying to come up with an apology that he could give. He claims he showed her a draft of what he wanted to post on social media, and she said he addressed Cassie by name in the draft that I saw. I felt it was more heartfelt. I thought it was good enough. He said when Diddy went to go post the final video, she was disappointed because it had no heart. She was then told that KK was coming and she had to go to another room, so she ended up leaving and going back to LA. Now, they did play a portion of the video, and right now there is a small break, so I will be back to let you guys know what happens next. Was so much that came up after the lunch break, and this was after Cassie filed her lawsuit, and we're going to get into all of it. I'm talking about one of the male entertainers. Prosecutors are officially done with Jane Doe, which means she's going to start cross-examination tomorrow, and I can't lie, I am nervous. Now, after the mid-afternoon break, they played the part of Diddy's apology video, if you want to call it that, where he said, I was effed up, I hit rock bottom, I sought out professional help, I'm going to therapy, I'm going to rehab. She wasn't allowed to say Cassie's name, which is why they took a break and had the sidebar. So they asked her, what did you think he was referring to? And she said the hotel elevator lobby video. They then talk about June 18th, 2024, and how it was the first time Diddy got violent with Jane Doe. Diddy had just returned from a family trip in Utah. She was in her LA home, which, yes, paid by Diddy, and she had his assistant Jonathan help her set up the place. She said there were candles, red lights, she wore a long brown dress, but this was not one of those hotel nights. It was just supposed to be the two of them. She said they were drinking, and that's when she started confronting him about who he had brought on this family trip to Utah. He called him a pedophile, and because he was 25 years older than her, she said, if a girl can't even buy her own drinks, why are you interested in her? She said she snapped, and that's when she pushed his head into a marble counter. She said he was cursing, calling her crazy, and that's when she ran and locked herself in the master bedroom. Diddy kicked down the door, so she ran into the bathroom. He kicked that door down, so she ran into the closet, and he kicked that one as well. She tried to run, but he allegedly kicked her behind the thigh. She fell down, and that's when he put her in a chokehold. She said she couldn't breathe, but somehow wiggled herself free, ran outside the front door, and ran 6 blocks, hiding behind a wall for 2 hours, hoping he would leave. But he didn't leave, so she locked herself in the guest bedroom, and he kicked down that door as well. She threw candles and glasses and shouted that she hated him, but he got a hold of her and he started punching her head. He was saying things to her like, you're trying to keep me away from my kids, and she was trying to say no, but he kicked her to the ground. I was balled up, then he grabbed me by my hair and arms and dragged me back to the house. He was calling her effing crazy. She was telling him to leave me alone, and that's when he called the girl that allegedly came on the Utah trip with him. She said Diddy was holding her down so she would have to listen, and then asked the girl if she was on that trip, and then said the girl started insulting Jane Doe, so Jane Doe tells her to shut up, he's beating my ASS right now, and then Diddy hung up. He then FaceTimed his assistant Jonathan and told him to tell Jane Doe that there was no girl on this family trip. After that FaceTime was over, she said she went into the shower to cool off, and she could see that a black eye was forming. She said she was fully undressed in the shower, and Diddy came, he was wearing his pants, and walked up to her and slapped her. She just fell to the ground and sat there because she was so exhausted, and Diddy then tells her to just put some ice on it. And after all that, that's when he tells her, put on an outfit, and yes, he was talking about that kind. And took her phone and screen mirrored it to the TV and text Anton, one of the male entertainers, hey, what are you doing? But then he scrolled up and saw their last conversation. Now remember, she said she had seen Anton in Vegas when she had gone with a rapper who was a mutual friend of hers and Anton's. So Diddy asked her, who is the mutual friend? And she said, I don't know. And she said she lied because at the time they weren't together and she didn't feel the need to tell him. She said she then used makeup and her hair to cover up the injuries because Diddy had told her to. And then Anton came and she greeted him. She was polite, but Diddy was giving her an evil stare. He tells her, I need to talk to you. So they go into the guest bedroom and he's grilling her again about who is this mutual friend. So she said, I went to Vegas with a rapper and his girlfriend and we watched Anton doing things with someone else. Diddy asks her, do you have this corn star having something over me? He then tells her to take X and she says, I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to. And then he says to her, is this coercion? And so she took the pill. She then said she did what she had to on Anton and said, I felt sick. I was like, even in my own body, I felt disgusted. I felt terrible. After that was done, she excused Anton and she said Diddy called her this word and then he left. He then sent his security to give her about 10 to 12K in cash. Some of it was to go to Anton, and she said she sent 3 to 4K of it in an Uber to Anton, and she kept the rest, which was meant to cover the damages of the doors. She was asked if she ever did fix the doors, and she said no, because she had other bills, and therefore the prosecutors showed images of all the doors that Diddy broke down. She said she then saw Diddy a few days later because they were supposed to have a Sunday fun day, but it was tense. She said Diddy had FaceTimed his assistant Jonathan and asked him what he saw a few nights ago when they were on FaceTime. Jonathan said that all he saw was for a moment Jane Doe was crying in a corner. And she said while she and Diddy were in the yard, she had taken a video but inadvertently filmed her injuries. After that, she said she found out that Diddy had gone to Wyoming with another woman, so for 2 to 3 days until she found out that his mom went to the hospital. She put everything to the side and reached out to him and said she then saw him in Miami last July. She was asked if she then told Diddy, the name of the rapper, the mutual friend between her and Anton, And she said yes, but she never told the jury who that was. So she says she gets on a red eye. She was extremely tired, but she had a good time with Diddy, and he tells her, you can tell me if you're tired. And so she does. He tells him, let's stop for now and see each other later. His demeanor changed. He tells her, a man spends all his money on you and you say you're tired, and then he threw a water bottle at her and called her the B word and then gave her an X pill. After taking it, she said he was celebratory, and that's when they brought Paul to the home. She said, I was given a spray bottle, liquid Molly, into my mouth. I felt a surge of high octane SUL energy. She said Paul comes in, she greets him with that energy, and they had their night, and the last time she saw Diddy was August of 2024. And that time, Dawn was there and they had another night. She was then asked if she had gone to New York to see Diddy, and she said no. When asked why, she said that was when he was arrested. She said she received a subpoena and she had to come in November 2024, then January 2025, and then after. When asked if she had seen a therapist, she said yes for 3 months now. And then when asked, do you have an attorney for this case? We already know the answer. She says yes. Who's paying for it? Sean, I'm still processing, nothing further. Like I said, tomorrow cross-examination will begin, and it's going to be a long week. Prosecutors.
Y'all hit the like and subscribe button. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for tuning in. Subscribe to follow me more on the Diddy case.